Hello and welcome to the Profitable Baker podcast, the show for bakers who mean business. I'm Annie Bennett, founder of the Home Baking Business Academy, and every week I'll be sharing practical lessons, mindset shifts, and inspiring stories from bakers who are building businesses they love. Because success in this industry isn't about who bakes the fanciest cakes, it's about who builds the strongest business foundations. Let's get started. Welcome to episode 1. Here we are at last, episode 1 of the Profitable Baker podcast. And it's particularly exciting for me today because 14th of November, it's actually my birthday today. One of the reasons why I decided to launch the podcast today was because I knew that I wouldn't forget when my birthday was. So I thought it was an excellent day to actually launch the podcast. Very significant day, obviously, for me. But did you know it's also King Charles's birthday today? I have shared my birthday with King Charles. I was born on his 18th birthday. There we go. But unlike King Charles, I do not have an official birthday in June, although perhaps I should. Perhaps I should have an official birthday when the weather's nice. There's a lesson to be learned for everyone there, isn't there? Okay, today, what are we talking about today? We are talking about starting up, starting your baking business. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story and the baking business that I ran for, however many years it was. And I've also got some fabulous stories from some of my fabulous bakers about how and why they started their businesses as well. So let me tell you about my business journey. Now, I was a primary teacher for 30 years and finished being a head teacher about 15 years ago now. And let's just say that didn't really end well. I came away from head teaching quite battered and bruised and broken. I was on depression medication, all the whole works. And I decided that I needed to do something different. And I had the advantage of having a few months actually, where I could just recover. And I got my mind to thinking about what I could do. And I decided at that point that I did actually want to run a business. I didn't really want to be employed again. And I had a think about what I could do. And because I'd baked for quite a long time, I'd always been the one to take, cakes into the staff room, that kind of thing. I decided to set up my own baking business. And so I did. The following year, I set up Leading Lady Cakes. Now, small tip here for anyone who is starting up and wants to name their business. And my tip here is once you've thought of a name, Google it. Check to see whether that name exists. And in particular, does that name have a website domain already bought? And I'm glad I did this because originally I wanted to be Prima Donna Cakes. That was my first choice of name because I'm a trained opera singer, trained soprano. And at that time, I had been singing a lot with my fellow opera chums, a little opera group in Tunbridge Wells, and we did lots of productions. And it just seemed the perfect name, Prima Donna Cakes. But when I Googled it and I looked it up, someone already had the domain, had bought the domain. Now, it's not a legal thing. You're not prevented from taking a name that already has a domain, but as you build your business, you're going to probably find that you want a website and you're not going to be able to have it in your name if someone else has got the domain. So choose a name that you can buy the domain, the .com or the .co.uk domain. And even if you're not thinking of having a website yet, buy that domain. It won't cost you very much, but it'll be yours. So that if you do decide to have a website, you can do it. But more importantly, no one else can do that. No one else can buy that domain name and set up a website with your business name. Okay, so Leading Lady Cakes was born. And to start with, I traded at markets. I did the odd birthday cake. But my main aim at that time was to get into wedding cakes. I really, really wanted to be a wedding cake baker. But at that time, I didn't have all the skills that I needed. I had some of them, but not all of them. So I invested. I invested in some diploma courses, PME diploma courses, and I learnt how to work with sugar paste, how to work with buttercream, how to work with royal icing, and how to make sugar flowers. Now, the sugar flowers thing was something I really, really loved doing. I absolutely loved doing that. And even now that I don't actually run my business, I'll come on to why in a second. I still occasionally make sugar flowers. I'll do it for the family. My mum loves my sugar flowers. She has a whole cabinet full of them. So that was the plan. So I set up Leading Lady Cakes. I traded at markets. I also, at the same time, I did supply teaching as well. And I even, at one point, got another full-time job teaching, but decided very quickly that not only had I fallen out of love with teaching, it had fallen out of love with me. And it really wasn't something that I wanted to go back to. So I stuck with the supply teaching with the view to bring that down and build the business up. Now, come 2020, 23rd of March, I think the date was, in the evening, I was watching the news and the then Prime Minister made that speech to say that we were all in lockdown. Well, in the space of about 5 minutes, all my summer income had gone. I had probably 7 or 8 weddings booked for that summer. All of those had gone. My supply teaching, all gone. And there was a bit of panic to start with, but those who know me will probably know what I did next. I thought, right, there's no point in panicking over this. That's not going to do me any good at all. Let's work out a plan. Let's see what I can do to get through this. Now, at the time, I was in a Facebook group for Hitched. I was a member of Hitched as well. I signed up to their directory. That's how I'd got some of my bookings. But they put on some days. They acted really quickly, and they put on some days via Zoom for people in the wedding industry to give advice. And they had, people like lawyers in there telling us, what our rights were with payments and deposits, all that kind of stuff. It was really helpful. And in one of those sessions, I came across a lady called Lisa Johnson. And Lisa is an absolute expert in making income out of things that you know about out of your expertise. And I signed up to her course and I set up my training business to train bakers how to start and set up and grow a home baking business. Now, to start with, I called it Annie Bennett Business, just because it was the first thing that came into my head. But I soon realised actually that didn't tell anyone what it was. What business didn't tell anyone what it was. So after a while, that changed to Leading Lady Cakes Business School. So I linked it with the wedding cakes. And so I set that up in 2020. I set up my membership, which is now called the Home Baking Business Academy. That was set up in September, October of that year. And I have members with me 5 years later that were original members of that time. So it's just been amazing. And I've got about 60 or so members now and growing. And then the following year, 2021, was when I wrote the food hygiene record book. And what was then the handbook is now the Home Baking Business Bible. So I developed my training business alongside my wedding cake business, which I was able to then, as lockdown and the pandemic eased off, the weddings came back and I was able to take bookings. Now, everything changed last year because last year, last July, I was diagnosed with cancer. And at the time, I decided that I couldn't, I didn't know how my treatment would go. And I couldn't see too far into the future as far as that was concerned. And because the wedding industry, sometimes you're booking, year 2, year 3 years in advance, I decided to close Leading Lady Cakes. I decided to just concentrate on the academy. It's far less stress involved in running the academy and doing all my training. And I absolutely love it. So I had not really any qualms to close the business. I do miss making wedding cakes, of course I do. And I miss being part of a couple's day. That was just an amazing thing. And talking to all the venues and the other suppliers. I loved it. But I realised that that was going to be quite stressful. And say at the time, I wasn't sure how my treatment would go. So that was it. I made the break last year. And now I just run the academy. I do run it alongside a charity that I've set up. If you want to know more about the charity, just look in the show notes for the Chronicles of Hope link and you'll find the website and it's all on there. Read the blog and it'll tell you everything that happened with that last year. But back to the academy, I decided a couple of months ago that I'd really, really love to set up a podcast. I have one for my charity already, so I know how it all works. And I thought, wouldn't it be fabulous to have a podcast? And more importantly, to include all the bakers that are in my community. I have a Facebook group, the Home Baking Business Community UK, which is getting on for about 17,000 members in it now. Hello, if you're a member of the Home Baking Business Community. Thank you for listening. I thought it would be a really lovely thing to do to have a weekly, hopefully weekly podcast where I chat about aspects of the business. I can include stories and tips from my bakers as well. And I will be having some guest episodes as well. Those will be coming up. So that was why I started the podcast. And here we are on my birthday with episode 1. I did ask my bakers. I set up a launch group, a podcast launch group, which some of the bakers have come into, and you are more than welcome to come and join. Look in the show notes for the link to come into there, because it's in there that I'm asking people to share, as I said, stories, tips, all sorts of things that I can use on the podcast. And a couple of weeks ago, I asked them what their startup stories were. And my goodness, we've had some fabulous ones. And there is a sort of a theme running through, but I'll read some of them out and then we'll talk about it. So the first story is from my lovely Academy member, Louise. She's also actually one of my VIP members. And Louise tells me that she actually had a dream to own her baking business when she was 16. But she never followed it up. She didn't go into the business after college. She started a family and her life went in lots of different ways. But she decided a while back that she would love to focus on making Christmas cakes. She's always loved making Christmas cakes. She's got her own special recipe that she never shares. Don't ask her. She won't share it. But it's the same recipe she's been using for about 50 years. And she is now, particularly around this time of year, calling herself the Christmas Cake Lady, which is absolutely brilliant. We love that. And she tells me that in 1997, she found an article in Good Housekeeping magazine, which was all about a lady who'd started a business. And that re-inspired her to get her business off the ground. And a few years ago, she had a few more life challenges, which we won't go into, but a few years ago, she decided, right, this is it, this is the time. And now she is out there. She has a website and she's a fully fledged baking business owner and she's doing fabulously. So that's the lovely Louise Johnson. Who else have we got here? Oh, we've got Kerry. Hello, Kerry. I hope you're listening here. I've known Kerry for quite a long time. Most of these people actually came into the Facebook group to start with, and I've got to know them really quite well from that, and Kerry is one of them. Now, Kerry tells me, she says, my baking business began after having my first daughter. I'd previously been a salesperson for a sports car dealership, but the very long hours and time away from home wasn't an option with a baby. So Kerry's Cupcakes was born. She tells me that for years she struggled with low self-belief and imposter syndrome. That is so common, particularly amongst bakers. I'll do an episode on that one day. But Kerry tells us that she discovered personal development, and she and I have a shared love of a particular book called Mindset by Carol Dweck. And she tells me that it completely transformed the way that she thought and the way she spoke to herself. And she says, yes, that's the thing. If you're a lady of a certain age, you'll know what I mean. And she says sometimes she even answers herself. Yes, Kerry, I know exactly what you mean. I'm with you on that one. And she tells me now she runs a cake business on her terms. Really important, with her prices reflecting her skills and not what the customer tries to dictate. There's going to be quite a few episodes on pricing and customers and things. So listen out for those because it's so important to get that right. She says no to orders that she doesn't feel comfortable with. Again, brilliant skill to have. And not only that, but she started a coaching business alongside her cakes. And she helps other women in business who are on a similar journey, because she says we could be totally unstoppable if we just dared to believe in ourselves a bit more. Absolutely 100%, Kerry. Fabulous. Who else have we got here? We've got Hayley. This is a story I've heard a lot as well. Hayley tells me that she started baking after the loss of her beautiful mum. She felt too young not to have her mum around. Oh, she said she lost her purpose in life. She lost her best friend. She tells me, my mum absolutely loved cake, which was a bit of a running joke as she was diabetic. So I decided to turn my pain into something beautiful that she would look down on me with pride and love. This is where I started piping cupcake bouquets. This was just for fun and something to fill my headspace with something positive. And this has now turned into a business for me, which I never dreamed would happen. I feel incredibly lucky and I know she's watching down on me, seeing my creations come to life. Oh my goodness, I'm sure she is, my lovely. That is just such a lovely story. Thank you for sharing that with us. Next up, we have Cara. Now, Cara's one of the Academy members as well. Now, this is a really interesting story. Thank you for sharing this, Cara. Cara tells me, I began my baking business following a major change in my life. My adopted daughter was struggling with life, loss and new school. Her anxiety spiraled after the death of her much-loved foster carer. Oh. Holiday clubs and after-school clubs couldn't meet her needs, and it was clear that I needed to support her at home. Shortly after this, my father died suddenly. Oh, Cara. And this triggered my need to resign my nursing job and move back to Ireland and be closer to my elderly mum and family. Nursing hours weren't flexible enough, so I decided to focus on a business I could run from my home. My baking business allows me to work from home and be more around for my daughters. Absolutely fantastic. And so this is often a thread with bakers. It's because employment doesn't work for them. They need something that's flexible around hours to look after children, to care for people. And baking businesses can do that. So thank you, Cara, for sharing that story with us. Now, Amy, lovely Amy Weatherby, has quite a different story. And I love this. She tells me, Lowry, my daughter, is just starting her journey. She is 11 years old and wants a horse. We said, if you want one, you have to fund it. Oh, I love this so much. I love this. If you want something, you've got to work for it and get it. I love this so much. Amy tells me she's completed her food hygiene and allergy training, and they've arranged the inspection with the local council and is now researching avenues to trade. It's worth saying here that at 11, it would be Amy, her mum, having to do most of the official stuff. But I think it's just brilliant. The entrepreneurial, that's really difficult to say, spirit there. You want something, you've got to work out a way of actually getting it. So all the best for you and your daughter, Amy. I hope it goes really, really well. Next up, we have a story from lovely Catherine Constantine. Hello, Catherine. Catherine tells me, I moved from a city to a small village. The local cafe didn't have a vegan cake supplier. And I said, I bake. They put me through my allergen certificates, etc., all the things you need when you start up. We'll talk about all that in a bit. And a couple of days a week, I'd get up at 5 a.m., go down the mountain and bake a cake in the cafe before they opened. The cakes became popular. At Christmas, someone asked if I could bake their Christmas cake. I nearly popped with excitement. She says, and that sowed the seed. I still bake at 5 a.m., but it's just a pad downstairs now. It's been a beautiful way to begin my new life here. I've quite literally baked my way home. Oh, isn't that just fabulous? Absolutely fabulous. What an amazing story. And I know Catherine does the most amazing things as well. Thank you for sharing that, Catherine. That's just fabulous. Another Catherine, we have a Catherine McDonald, who has a bit of a different story. Now, Catherine tells us, she says, I still don't feel like I have a baking business. I have terrible imposter syndrome. Now, this is going to be the subject of another podcast episode, so keep your eyes peeled for this one. But she says baking is the joy. Turning it into a business, being vulnerable to criticism and feeling that you are never quite good enough and never quite feeling like you are doing it right is the biggest hurdle. That is such a common story, Catherine. I'm sure lots of bakers listening can resonate with that. But as I say, listen out to some episodes because I talk a lot about mindset and confidence. Catherine goes on to say, I was recently in a redundancy situation and supporting a family member, so I have to make it work. Slowly starting to get a little traction, but the fear of failure is very real. We can work through that, Catherine. We can work through that. Keep listening because there'll be lots in here to help you with that. But that is such a common story. As I said, I'm sure a lot of you listening will resonate with that. And our last story is from another one of my lovely Academy members, Gemma Dobson. Hello, Gemma. Gemma says, I started baking when I found out I had celiac disease. It wasn't just a diagnosis, it was a complete overhaul of my life. She said she didn't want to settle for a caterpillar cake or a galaxy cake in the free from aisle. Yes, I'm with you on that one. She wanted a glamorous showstopper cake that tasted delicious, and that's when she started. So she started because she realised that what she wanted wasn't in the shops. She said she had numerous setbacks in the beginning, but realised every mistake was a learning curve. Yes, which brought me one step closer. Do you know, I'm always talking about that. I always say there's no such thing as mistakes and failures. There are only learning opportunities. And Gemma is embracing that. And she tells me I'm running my own business and loving every minute, which is the goal, isn't it? It's absolutely the goal. I'm an absolute believer in you should be loving what you're doing. There's no room in life to be doing things that you don't like doing, particularly if they're not necessary. You know, do what you love, make something that you love. And that's what starting up a baking business is often all about. Now, if you are listening to this and you are thinking of starting your business, taking that plunge, I do have a free guide for you. Right back in 2020, when I first set up the Facebook group, I wrote a guide and it's called Steps to Business. And I've adapted it and added to it over the years. And it's now a document with a checklist And it's also got a little finance walkthrough as well. But the document actually shows you the steps that you need to take, funnily enough, because it's called Steps to Business, the steps you need to take to open a baking business from home. So if that's you, have a look in the show notes. You'll see the link there to actually download it. Sign up and it'll come straight to your inbox and it'll be there for you to refer to. So there we are. That is our starting up episode. Now, if you are starting up, I'm opening up the Academy membership again. So if you think you would like a little bit more guidance, a little bit more help, inside the Academy membership, I have a whole course entitled Start Your Own Baking Business. There's a whole section on the kitchen inspections and what to expect for that. There's sections on pricing, all in that first little mini course. And the membership itself, we have themed months. November, at the moment, we're doing pricing. And next month in December, we're going to be talking about planning for 2026. So that's the Academy. So have a look in the show notes for all the links you need. And if you're not already in the podcast Facebook group, please do come and join us, because I'd love to have you in there. And I'd love you to share your stories and your tips about your businesses in there as well. Thank you so much for listening today to episode 1 of the Profitable Baker podcast. Do have a look in the show notes for all the links I've told you about. Please do come into the podcast group because I'd love to have you in there. Join me next week. At least I hope it's next week. I'll say next week in the hope that I will have it for next week. But, you know, life at the moment can be quite hectic. But watch out for the socials as well, because I'll tell you on there when it's going to be. But plan A is to have one next week, the 21st of November. And episode 2, we're also going to be thinking about starting up, but in particular, things we wish we'd known when we started up our baking business. That's what we're going to be talking about next week. So join me next time for the Profitable Baker podcast. Until next time.